Shen Yue was rushed to the hospital on set. She had been filming for hours, under the glare of relentless lights, each scene demanding perfection, each take stretching her smile a little thinner. And no one noticed the tremble in her hands, or the faintness in her voice. She pushed through it, because that was who she had become, the girl who always showed up, no matter how tired, no matter how broken. But that day, her body made a choice her heart refused to. It gave up. Between one scene and the next, she stood in place, looked ahead, and then her legs buckled beneath her. The sound of her fall was drowned by the shouts that followed. Scripts scattered, cameras paused, and the silence that filled the studio was not scripted. A crew member dropped the boom mic and sprinted. Another shouted for a medic. Someone fumbled for a phone. The director froze in place, helpless, watching Shen Yue lie motionless on the cold floor. Her eyes were barely open, her skin pale. She tried to whisper something, but no one could hear it. They surrounded her, trying to wake her, trying to bring her back. And somewhere in the distance, a siren began to cry. The ambulance arrived quickly, too quickly, as if fate had been waiting. They lifted her gently, carefully, as if she were made of glass. And as the doors slammed shut, the set fell into a stillness no one dared to break. What no one saw, what no one expected, was what happened just a few blocks away. Wang, in another part of the city, had been on a quiet break, a rare moment to himself, until his phone rang once, twice, and then stopped. But that was all it took. A single missed call from her assistant. And Dylan knew, without a second thought. He ran. No driver, no car, only a studio assistant's motorcycle parked out front. He did not ask. He did not explain. He grabbed the helmet, started the engine, and flew down twisting lanes, between traffic, through every red light, past honking cars and shouting voices. He chased the sound of the sirens he could barely see, but his heart heard them, every beat matching their rhythm. Rain had started to fall, thin and sharp, but Dylan's grip only tightened. His eyes searched each turn, each street, until finally, he saw it, the ambulance, turning into the emergency entrance of the city's largest hospital. He skidded to a stop, threw the bike aside, and ran. Inside, nurses tried to stop him, but his voice rose above all others. Where is she? Where is Shen Yue? A nurse hesitated, then pointed. He followed the direction like a man possessed, until he found her, behind glass, on a white bed, hooked up to machines that beeped and blinked like fragile promises. She looked small, too small, like all the light in her had gone somewhere far away. Dylan did not speak. He walked to her, dropped to his knees beside the bed, and reached for her hand. It was cold, still. He whispered, "Shen Yue, I'm here." But she did not move. A tear slipped from his eye, followed by another, until they fell freely, quietly, as he whispered again, "If anything happens to you, I will never forgive myself. I will never breathe the same again." Doctors moved in and out. Voices floated through the room, but Dylan heard none of them. He only saw her, still, sleeping, and he held on. Minutes turned into hours. The storm outside grew heavier, and Dylan never left her side. He replayed every moment, every fight, every laugh, every mischance, and wondered why it always takes a tragedy to remind us how much we love someone. And then, a breath, a twitch of her fingers, and slowly, her eyes fluttered open. She blinked once, twice, and her gaze found him. Her lips barely moved, but he heard her. "You came." He nodded, eyes red, voice low. "Always." A soft smile touched her lips, and in that moment, he realized it did not matter how many cameras loved her, or how many scripts she was meant to finish. She was human, frail, strong, and his. She tried to sit, but he gently stopped her. You're safe. That's all that matters. A doctor entered, gave a quiet update. Fatigue, exhaustion, too much pressure, too little rest. And Dylan listened, then made a decision. She was done. With the industry, with the rushing, with the pain. Not forever, but for now. He would take her away, where lights did not burn so hot, where no one demanded perfect takes, where she could heal. The following week, no one saw them leave, but insiders whispered. They were gone. Gone to a mountain house in Yunnan. Gone to a quiet life, where she could sleep, and wake, and smile, because she wanted to, not because she was told to. Months passed. Rumors spread, but neither returned to the spotlight, until one day, a photo surfaced, not from paparazzi, but from a small village girl, who posted without knowing who they were. It showed Dylan, carrying groceries, and Shen Yue, laughing beside a field of sunflowers, her cheeks full, her eyes bright, no makeup, no mask, and just like that, the world understood. Some love stories are not meant for the stage. Some recoveries cannot be scripted, and some arrivals come after a desperate chase through city streets, on a borrowed bike, in the rain. The sun had not yet risen, but the hospital corridors were already awake. Quiet footsteps echoed through the hallways. Machines beeped in rhythm with hearts that refused to give up. And inside room 309, Dylan sat beside her. He had not slept, not even for a second, his fingers still laced with hers, as if letting go would make her disappear again. Shen Yue stirred in the bed. The first full breath she took sounded like a promise. And Dylan exhaled for the first time in hours. You scared me, he whispered. Not for the cameras, not for the headlines, just for her. Because, in that moment, he was not a star. He was just a man terrified of losing the only person who made sense in a world that never stopped spinning. Shen Yue looked at him, eyes glassy but calm, and asked the one question that had haunted her before she passed out. Did they call my manager? Will the director be angry? Dylan shook his head slowly. You nearly collapsed in my arms. And you are worried about the director. She gave a small laugh, or something close to it. And then silence fell between them again. Outside the window, the world was moving. But in that room, time was frozen. The doctor came back with calm words. Exhaustion. Overwork. Her vitals were stable. But she needed rest. Weeks of it, if not months. Dylan thanked him, but his mind was already made up. She was not going back to the set. Not until she was strong enough to dance in the rain again. Not until she could laugh without hiding the pain. A few hours later, when she had finally fallen asleep again, he stepped outside to make a call. Not to his manager, not to the press, but to the woman who kept all his secrets. His older sister. She answered immediately, and his voice cracked as he spoke. I almost lost her. She did not ask who. She already knew. Tell me what you need, she said. I will take care of everything. And she did. By noon the next day, Dylan had cleared Shen Yue's schedule, canceled upcoming projects, booked a private flight, and secured a quiet home far from the city. When Shen Yue woke again, she found a bag already packed, a handwritten note on her bedside table. It said, You are not going back there. Not until you remember who you were before the cameras started taking pieces of you. I want to show you a sky that never needs filters. Come with me. She stared at the note for a long time, and when Dylan walked in, she simply nodded. I trust you, she said. And that was all he needed. They left the hospital that night. No reporters, no fans, just two people escaping everything they thought they needed. The road to the private villa was long, winding through forests and fields that smelled like peace. The kind of peace money could never buy. When they arrived, it was dark, but stars lit the sky like someone had painted them by hand. Shen Yue stepped out first. Her bare feet touching warm stone, and for the first time in years, she breathed without effort. Inside, the house was simple: wooden beams, wide windows, books on every shelf, and a fireplace waiting to be lit. Dylan had thought of everything, including the piano. She once told him she used to play as a child. She touched the keys, pressed a note, and smiled. He watched her from the doorway, his heart heavy, but hopeful. The next few days were quiet. They did not speak much. There was no need. They cooked together, slept in separate rooms, but shared coffee at sunrise. And slowly, Shen Yue began to return.